We're joined now at the library by our favorite local woman, Media
And I'm just
Maven
pretending to be on vacation.
Sue O'Connell. She is Are you on vacation?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I'm not. I told
I like
Marjorie.
that.
I haven't even introduced her
I'm sorry.
yet.
Go ahead.
Okay, fine. She is co-publisher of Bay Windows and the South End News. She's either on vacation or not. Co-host with Corey Smith of NBC 10 Boston's At Issue every Sunday at 11:30, following Meet the Press, and in a couple of days, leaving for Chicago for the Democratic National Convention broadcast for NBC 10 Boston. So now you may say if you're on vacation or not.
Well, I'm showing up strategically at work so that they see me, and then if they don't have anything for me to do, I look busy, and then I leave.
I like it.
Okay.
I like your style there, Sue
Okay.
O'Connell.
They're listening, but they're
That's okay. They don't know.
They don't know.
Okay, we're going to start playing a little clip of former President Trump. He was being interviewed by Twitter owner
Interviewed
Elon
is too
Musk.
strong a word,
Okay,
by the
they were
way.
chatting. Let's put it that way. And it was another botched thing where it started 45 minutes late. This happened before when Musk was going to talk to Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who was then running for president. He endorsed him before he moved to Trump. Trump sounds a little odd in this particular clip. He sounds like he has a lisp when he's talking about Biden. I don't know what to make of that. But anyway, here's the clip. Is it
We're
coming?
having some sound problems
It's
today.
frozen.
We should
Okay.
just say, throughout this, I listened to a lot of this. Lisping, that may be a technological thing. A lot of slurring of words. The exact same thing the press was all over with Joe Biden. And by the way, I read almost every single story in responsible media about this conversation last night. I'd say 50% of them didn't mention what my major takeaway was, that again, this is a guy having trouble finding his words, enunciating his words, the exact same kind of thing that so much of the press was targeting, I think correctly, frankly, at Joe Biden.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy and a lot of double standards that happened with this. Number one, for me, my reaction was it was 40 minutes late getting going. Now, remember Trump on stage at the Black Journalists Association, how he complained that they were late, and he went off, and he was not screaming, he was angrily, in a hostile way, saying how unprofessional they were and how late he was, and then he's sitting there with Elon Musk on this, X broadcast system, which has yet to work, by the way. But don't worry, he's in charge of all the missiles and all the satellites and everything in our cars, but that's fine. And so, you had these technical problems that they have yet to fix. I think Elon Musk was, frankly, not being truthful about what was happening. As somebody said, he said that they were under some sort of cyber attack and that's why they were having problems. And someone else said, yes, but only that one particular thing was being disrupted.
The rest of Twitter was fine.
So the hypocrisy of not calling out, if you're going to call out the National Black Journalists Association for being late and having technical problems, then you should be calling out Elon Musk. And he didn't sound, even if you take into account that perhaps there were technical problems, and we all know if you're in this business, you sound different on different microphones and different things, and satellites and all of that.
However, the slurring, though.
Not the slurring and not the not making any sense, which continues with Trump. And, Elon Musk is just... Don't call it an interview. If he's not a journalist, he's not an interviewer. If you want to sit and say, I'm having a discussion with this candidate, call it a discussion, but it was in no way, there was no pushback on I don't think there was any pushback.
By the way, remember when it failed in similar fashion with DeSantis announcing his here's what Trump put on Truth Social.
We've got it now. The thing is working if you want to play the clip.
Well, the DeSantis Twitter launch is a disaster, wrote Trump. His whole campaign will be a disaster. Watch. By the way, Andy Borowitz, our favorite satirist, his headline this morning, Trump and Musk share tips on running companies into the ground, which is essentially what they,
Andy Borowitz is so clever. Can we play the clip now?
Well, it's a little, I don't know, no, because...
We can't?
Well, sure, go ahead.
Let's play the...
You broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain
That's enough
voices.
of that. It's a dentures issue. It's either a technological issue or a
dentures.
You have loose dentures.
He's got loose dentures.
Yeah, but that's
you
not...
think he wears dentures?
Absolutely. He's got TV teeth. You don't have TV teeth unless you have dentures.
Well, he could have implants.
Well, you have
too.
TV teeth. You're
no,
on
I
TV.
don't. I was actually just talking to Jamie, your
about
illustrious
your teeth?
producer, about how I wouldn't want to make fun of Trump's TV teeth because I want TV teeth. So if I get my new TV teeth and I'm slurring...
You don't want anybody making fun of you either.
I thought
okay.
we all, I thought
kind of his
everybody
color.
just got the crest white strips and
Oh,
they
no,
went a
no,
little
no.
overboard.
Oh, no, no.
No?
No.
Is that not what they do?
No.
So
Okay.
can we stay on this for 1 second? We had this discussion with Art Kaplan yesterday
Yes.
Should have known that.
about one of my pet peeves, that because of this stupid notion of the Goldwater rule, where
Yeah.
a psychologist, I think shrinks to, I'm not sure,
Yep.
can't, quote, diagnose someone who they don't have a direct relationship with. My position continues to be, you have a responsibility in the media to talk about these cognitive issues, whether it's Biden, Trump, or whoever. You can say, as you should, I have not examined him, so I'm not diagnosing him, but you're making observations about the elements that are generally attributed to cognitive decline. And as I said, I think those were fair criticisms, and luckily they came when they did of Joe Biden. And I think it's fair for people with expertise, like experts on anything, to comment on Trump's performances.
Right. I mean, I think that Trump's comments, his Twitter, his posts about Kamala Harris' crowd size at the plane, saying that it was AI, artificial intelligence, when it obviously was not. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people, human beings, who were there. So, to your point, Jim, is that just an election lie that he's telling because he thinks it's going to get him ahead? Or does he really believe that? And if he really believes that, is that a symptom of something that you would be worried about having a president of the United States who thinks that thousands and thousands of people actually weren't there?
Well, let me just say one last thing. One of the criticisms that made me nervous with Joe Biden, he would often lose his train of thought mid-sentence. What we played the other day, the Cary Grant sound from Donald Trump, often in the middle of a sentence, he goes in a totally different direction. And if you go back, which I have done, and listen to him in 2022, 2020, 2016, and before, he is a man who's aging, which is perfectly fine, but the issue of his cognitive decline, in my estimation, is fair game.
I
Both
agree.
journalists and people with professional skills should be talking about it. Can we talk about my hometown of Cambridge?
Things have fallen apart, Jim, since you were there at the city council getting the free food from the S&S deli.
Well, wasn't necessary. Thank you. I was getting the free food because it was provided to all members of the council who
That's
worked
where
very
my
hard.
mother's wedding
You know,
shower was, at
Is
the
that-
S&S.
At the S&S
Yes,
deli?
Is that true?
Yes, yes.
Love
You
the
know,
S&S
yes.
deli.
The story was at the Cambridge City Council, you had to
Oh
make
my
sure you
God.
got there when there was somebody actually sitting at the council table, because mostly they were behind the curtain eating all the free food from the S&S
It wasn't a
deli.
curtain, it was a back room. It was a back room. During public comment at the beginning of the meeting, we had one member of the council out there listening or
And the other 8
semi-listening.
were
The
back
8 were filling
eating
their
their
shopping
roast
bags
beef.
with feeding all the people in their neighborhood, particularly their own families,
Yes.
on taxpayer dime. I didn't do that, but others did.
Oh,
do
I'm sure you didn't.
So I have to say, first of all, Ellen Zucker is arguably one of the best
She's a
lawyers on the
great
planet.
lawyer.
She has sued Cambridge, or at least been involved in litigation many times about sexual harassment, that sort of thing. The latest case involves a cop in Cambridge who most people here have heard of, even
Yes.
though they didn't know it. Sergeant Crowley, who was the man who stopped Henry Louis Gates Jr. at his door and then ended up being part of the beer summit with Obama and Biden.
Accusing him of breaking into his own house.
Exactly.
basically.
And what is this $1.4 million sort of secret settlement deal?
Yeah, this is a hostile environment, sexual harassment. Number of police officers and personnel at the Cambridge Police Department have filed suits against Crowley, and this is one of those stories of if no one asks, no one finds out. So this harassment suits are going through. They're being investigated. No one appears to know about it except for the people who filed it and the people who are investigating it. And then it comes before the Cambridge City Council $1.4 million payout, and they'd like to know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, what is this?
What
and
is
they
this?
go, oh, by the way, this officer, the sergeant rather, has been under investigation. These are the settlements that we're paying for the people who allegedly he sexually harassed or caused a hostile work environment for. So at this point, I will remind everyone that Massachusetts is the absolute worst state in the union for transparency when it comes to all sorts of issues, and we don't seem to care about that because we're Massachusetts, I guess. But, you know, for the people of Cambridge and for Massachusetts, at what point should we know as citizens, as taxpayers, when someone is in such shape at their job that we're paying millions of our tax dollars for settlements or for investigations or for defenses? If this were me, if I had been under this at my job, I would have been fired like in a week and a half before the settlement even got to that point.
We should say, by the way, Crowley, with one exception, one text, I believe it was, denies that the
Right.
other alleged examples of sexual harassment actually happened. I don't want to be unfair because I was a city councilor who often had no idea what I was doing. I must be honest. It was the first and only term, and I was lost at times. But it seems to me in the story that there was a 6-2 vote in favor of the settlement without the 8 people who voted knowing exactly.
Right.
How can you do that? How can you vote on something that is on an issue as serious as sexual harassment?
We should point out that this is a nationwide problem. Cops do bad things, whether it's sexual harassment. I mean, we always have to say most of them are good cops.
Well, also lawmakers do too.
But yes.
I mean, all state employees,
non-disclosures up
the
at the State House.
non-disclosures. It's not just this. This is I know this is a police officer, and that adds an extra level of concern to it. And to your point, Jimmy, he denies this, and there's settlements.
Not all of it. He
not
denies.
all of it. But so there was a settlement, and oftentimes people who are victims of this want settlements. They don't want it to move forward. So saying all that to set the table, but these settlements between towns and cities and states,
it's taxpayers'
with our money, without us knowing,
and millions.
You have, who
and
knows why the
millions.
city councilors didn't ask, why are we paying this money? Maybe they're just used to paying this.
Well,
money.
Let me just say,
point is
can I
that
say
this
one more
goes
thing
on-
about this? This argument that the reason they had to keep it under wraps was to protect the identity of the accusers.
I'm
it's
always
unimportant.
suspicious.
I have to say, no, it's not unimportant. Protecting, if you want your
that's
identity
important,
protected,
yes,
that is important.
yes.
I refuse to accept that you can't cleanse something with
Right.
redactions
I agree.
that make clear what is alleged without identifying the people making the allegations.
Yeah.
It's just total BS.
And the problem with this is, obviously, is that just like in the Catholic Church, where they were historically making non-disclosure agreements and giving people thousands of dollars and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, you don't know who the perpetrators are. I mean, that's the other thing that's a big deal. When you hide this stuff, and that, as you point out, it goes on in the legislature, it goes on with the cops, it goes
Yeah.
on all over the
It
place.
goes
Diana DiZoglio's
Yes, that's-
claim to
That
fame is
one of
challenging
her-
these NDAs.
Yes,
Right.
who said she only accepted an NDA because they either told her, and she was broke at the time,
Yep.
absolutely broke, raised by a single mother, had financial difficulties. The only reason she wasn't going to be able to get her severance pay,
Unless
and she
she
wouldn't be
signed
able
it.
to pay the rent.
Right.
Can I
unless
say
she
one more
signed
thing
it.
about this so that people understand? I think we're all on the same page, the three of us. The importance of this beyond transparency without outing survivors who don't want to be outed, which we all agree is an important element, is if what is true, and at least one of these texts he acknowledges is true, this cop continues to be a cop, and a woman might call and have him respond to a call. Well, don't you think that woman is entitled to know what other women in the police force have accused him of doing? I
Yes.
would say the answer is yes.
Yes, and again, I don't understand how some public employees get to keep jobs and get promoted when if I did any one of these things, I would be fired. I mean, you would be too. I mean, it's Marjorie's making
No,
a
don't.
face.
Let's not. Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Thank you, Marjorie. Okay, so
Yeah.
you are, in addition to going to the DNC next
Yes,
week, and I
I
think
am.
you're calling us one day, which we're
I
very
am.
Yes,
excited
you
about.
are.
Yes, and I'll be
Karen
charging
Reed,
you double.
Were you there on Friday for the
Yes,
hearing?
I was.
This is the hearing where the defense is saying the second-degree murder and the leaving the scene of a crime
Correct.
should be dismissed because based upon information that they and the prosecution has gotten after the fact, the jury allegedly had informally voted 12-0
Correct.
to acquit. I know it's really dangerous to try to read into how a judge or justices
Yep.
take
I'll do it.
argument. Do it.
So Marty, who's a lawyer? Marty.
Weinberg.
Weinberg.
One of the great lawyers
great
in
lawyer.
Massachusetts.
I mean,
He's now representing Reed.
He's representing Reed, I think, in this particular
Yeah.
aspect of the case. I mean, if you guys, because the court supplies such terrible audio, you don't get it. But if you want to see a great lawyer in action making a very conversational argument in a respectful way for all the parties involved, he was amazing. And Judge Beverly Cannoni was also clearly enjoying the argument. I mean, she was smiling, she was nodding. The difficulty here, from what experts and people who know more than I do, is that it's actually the motion to dismiss the first and third charges based on this informal vote. There was no verdict delivered, no official verdict delivered on either of those counts. It was a mistrial.
In public, yeah.
In mistrial. is that you're basically asking the judge to make law. There is no law in the books that says you can do this. You can ask a jury how they deliberated if later you found out someone was a racist or a sexist or homophobic, and that might have impacted how they deliberated. Or like in the Tsarnaev case, if someone had Facebook posts, one of the jurors, and they didn't disclose
Right.
it, then you can do that.
During
But there's
voir
no
dire,
other,
yeah.
there's no other avenue for you to call a jury back and ask them. You might be able to poll them and say, how did you vote? But can you really say that was exactly, that snapshot of where you were 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago or 6 months ago is going to hold? So people say what will happen is that Canoni will dismiss, will deny the motion because she doesn't have the legal standing to do it. And of course, they will appeal. And they expect that it may actually go to the Supreme Judicial Court of the state of Massachusetts. As Marty argued, if you can ask juries to come back for racism and ask them to come back for outside influence, would you not want to call them back if they were going to acquit a citizen? Why would you want to try her again? So I don't think it's going to get acquitted, but I think this is going to, or get accepted. I think it's going to go on for a long time.
I'm sure I've asked this question because I know I've asked you're not a lawyer, but you were there every day.
One.
Every lawyer who's been on the show, I've asked this question.
I've taken 2 community college courses.
Well, that's
There you go.
fabulous there, Sue. In any case, so I don't remember what you answered when I asked you the first time. Does anyone know why the judge in this or any other case, when there's more than one charge, doesn't say to the jury, I know you can't reach a verdict on the second charge?
Yeah.
What is the...
The third was leaving the scene.
Okay, no, the second one.
The second is manslaughter.
Okay, so I know you can't reach a verdict on that. Why would a judge, no, I'm not criticizing her, I just don't know what the rules are. Why would they not say, have you reached a verdict on the other charges?
One is that she's not required to.
Well, I understand that.
Right,
Why wouldn't they anyway?
So here's my theory, and this is just completely my theory.
Well, you took 2 law courses.
I did take, and I was in the courtroom the whole
Attorney
time.
O'Connell, please share your theory.
The jurors, the foreman of the jury, the notes that they wrote about their deliberations were so eloquent, so articulate, and used really particular legal language into what they were experiencing.
Yeah.
That I think to some degree the judge may have thought they were, and I don't want to say smarter, but more informed about the process than they actually were. So there was sort of like, oh my God, this is like a professional jury. Look at these notes. This is amazing. When in the end, it appears that they were waiting to be polled and didn't offer it. So I think it was sort of a miscommunication that happened. But again, to our kind of theme, we could change the state law to make sure that every single jury is polled when there are multiple counts.
Okay.
And this wouldn't have happened.
One other question on this. Is there an argument against having a requirement that a judge asks a jury if there are multiple counts in any criminal case, have you reached a unanimous verdict on anything?
Well, I think that if you are the defense or the prosecution and you don't want to know because it's not in your favor, I mean, also the prosecution and defense could have asked.
Of course,
but
right.
they didn't because they did. You don't
Didn't
want
know where
to.
it
No,
was
but I'm
going.
asking, is there any downside from the perspective of justice to require a judge to ask that question?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No,
Someone
there's
will tell
not,
us.
Jim.
What do you
Marjorie
mean?
says
You took
no.
some courses
Attorney
too?
Egan over here would say there is no downside, and I thought it was unusual. But
It was
that's-
just
that's
odd,
but that's just me. Okay, let's get to this Red Sox player, this Jarren Durand, apologizing for yelling a homophobic slur. It seems like every couple of years we have another. Last year we had one. Sometimes they're racist things, sometimes they're homophobic things. Is this the Red Sox, or are they unusual?
Listen,
or is
there's
this
a couple of
Major
things.
League Baseball? Or?
Ruby and I were at my daughter and I were at the Red Sox-Yankees game on a Saturday a couple of weekends ago, and the one we lost just barely, and it was really exciting, and they're doing the Yankees S, and then the Yankees fans were standing up going,
think
Red
it's so
Sox S.
stupid, by
I
the
hate
way.
it too,
I
but
hate
they're
it.
all having a good time, and they're all doing it, and it's, I forget where we were, but we were almost going to win, and it looked like we were going to do it, and then the Yankees started, and then these 2 African-American young men stand up, and we're in the grandstand right in front of us, and they start yelling, Red Sox S, Red Sox S.
Oh, no.
And the guy next to me, who I didn't know, we both held our breath.
I know exactly what you
Okay?
mean.
And the guy behind me yells, Yankees S. And we went, victory! They weren't racist. These kids were able to express their hate of the Red Sox, and there was no problem. So there's progress on that front. But on this front, listen, how old is this guy? How
Young
old is Jarren?
20s.
They still
I
say
think.
the F word when playing sports all through middle school, high school. I have been shocked by the response from people. We went out and did a story on this. We talked to people on the street who think it's no big deal to call someone the F word. And I think that, I don't think this guy is necessarily homophobic or isn't supportive, but it's a slur that gets used a lot, especially for young men and boys who are playing sports. And we just need to take the moment to say, it's a bad word. Don't say it.
Two things. One,
And you're talking about the F word that refers to a homosexual.
Correct.
Right. Two things. One,
The other F word's fine.
He apologized twice.
gonna say
just
it now.
for
Can't
the
say it
record,
enough.
so people know. He apologized in
Yep.
front of reporters yesterday, and I think
Yep.
in a statement the night before. The thing I don't understand, I don't want to dwell on this too much. The fact, and I think there are a lot of real grown-ups in the front. Sam Kennedy, somebody I really admire, president of the Red Sox.
Yes.
I think a pretty honest character and a person who cares deeply about inclusion and that sort of thing. The fact that this young guy went out to make his apology in a T-shirt that said "F them," not the anti-gay
Right,
F them,
right,
but
the
the
other
other
F,
F.
yeah.
And and by the way, he apparently wears that almost all the time.
Yeah.
He's had mental health issues.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, "I'm getting my life together. F all these
Yeah,
people."
yeah.
The fact that they let him go out and let a person like me, who has never seen him speak before,
That's
and I
the
watch a
image.
video, the first thing I see is how sincere can an apology be when he's wearing a T-shirt that says F
Yeah.
them. It's just really poor. And by the way, Kennedy did criticize him for, Kennedy, the president of the Red Sox, Sam, did criticize Durand for wearing that T-shirt.
Oh, wait a minute.
So-
Which T-shirt was this, please?
This-
Which
the apologizer, the player,
The other
when he
F
does
word.
his apology, the other F word
other
that
F word.
is more regularly used.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to say I'm sorry when you're wearing a shirt that says F 'em.
Exactly.
It kind of loses a little something.
So
Yeah.
can we only have a minute left. Can we,
Yeah, generally speaking, just in general, why would you wear a T-shirt that
Well,
says
he's
that?
got a whole thing. It's a
just-
whole thing.
no, I
Yeah.
actually understand
I
that
his thing.
considering he's
It's
had
just in that
a
moment
lot of
wearing
struggles.
it.
This was
Right.
not the right time for
Yeah.
this, and
Yeah.
he should have shown more better judgment, and so should his colleagues, his bosses, etc.
Well, sometimes I think these guys are so young. They need someone
They are.
to
They're
take
very
them
young.
aside and say, knock it off.
No, but after you've done something like this, you'd think twice and
Exactly.
whatever. Okay, we only have a minute left, but in light of the fact that we are trashing correctly this legislature every day for leaving for 5 months, even though they may do a few things, they left so much undone. Briefly tell us, I think the signing was yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
On this parenting thing. This is a really good
big
and
deal.
important thing. What happened?
So basically, gay and lesbian parents who have a child don't have to go, one of them doesn't have to go and adopt the
Yeah.
child again. So here's the idea. You're a man, you're a woman. The woman goes into the hospital, gives birth to a baby. The baby is there. She, delivers it, and they go to the man she's with, her husband, and they say, "You're the father," and he signs the birth certificate, and that's it. There's no DNA testing. There's no, anything. You just sign the document because you entered as a couple saying, "This is our child," and that's what happens. Except if you're a lesbian, you're not legally that child's parent. Even though you may be married, you may have conceived of this child together, you may have planned on this, unless you go and adopt your own child later. So
Which is expensive.
it's
Which is
very
insane,
expensive
too.
and insane. And it doesn't. And here's the fair part. It doesn't happen to straight couples, right? You don't really know if your husband's the father of your child.
You really don't
You
know.
really don't.
I mean, the
But he
gas
signs it,
man,
right?
the
Could be
UPS
the-
guy.
It looks like the mailman,
That's
right?
right.
But you sign it right there, and nobody says you need a DNA test or you have to go back and adopt your child. So this evens the playing field. It does help with other issues, other straight couples as well. But now, if you are two men or two women and you go into a hospital and the baby is born, you're both the parents.
Well, you know what the
legally.
thing is that seems to be such a classic case. If before you've officially adopted the kid and the baby it runs a fever or something happens and bio mom is at work or can't be reached, and the other mother is in a difficult situation
Yeah, you have
at
to.
the hospital.
In our family, we didn't have the Ruby biologically, but my partner had to carry around a legal document
Yeah.
that she had legal authority to, pick the child up. If the child went to the hospital, you had to actually show proof that you were legally authorized to do this.
And God
that's
forbid
crazy.
you forget it, you run out of the house without it.
No, exactly, or something
Yeah.
happens
Can I,
unexpected.
now that we're out of time, can I just praise Margie? I don't praise her enough. The fact that you voluntarily chose to leave King Charles and Harry out of this discussion was really grown up on your part, by the way.
Yeah,
really grown up.
Okay, there were so many other people to talk about. And
Exactly.
I'm glad I did.
Sue O'Connell, we'll be watching you at the
Thank
Democratic
you. I'll
National
be
Convention.
There. I'll be
Good luck.
phoning in or
Do your
Zooming in.
usual
Thank you
great
very
job.
much.
Thank you very much.